Good morning, class. This is Mrs. Bernard teaching economics for SS1. In our last topic, we studied financial institution. We learned the definition of financial institution, types of financial institution, banking financial institution, and non-banking financial institution. And under banking financial institution, we learned of the definition of bank, the origin of bank, the types of banks. Then we learned about commercial banks, characteristics of commercial banks, functions of commercial banks. Then we also learned of types of bank accounts. We learned about current accounts, fixed deposit accounts, and savings accounts. We also learned about their features and characteristics. See, today under commercial bank, we will be learning about roles of commercial banks in international trade. Roles of commercial banks in international trade. Number one is provision of documentary credit. Now, commercial banks provide commercial credit facilities to exporters, which help them in payment of goods. Minimizing of default in payment. Commercial banks guarantee payment of goods, but in order to ensure that default in payment is reduced, they help in confirming letters of credit. Discounting of documentary credit. Commercial banks can provide credit to facilitate foreign trade by discounting documentary credit. This will ensure that sellers are paid at once. We have act as referees to customers. Commercial banks act as referees to exporters by providing information to foreign businessmen about their credit worthiness. We have foreign exchange transaction. They help to arrange for the purchase and sale of foreign currencies, which are used to finance export and import trade. We have issuance of travelers' check. Commercial banks facilitate international trade by issuing travelers' check to businessmen traveling abroad. Now we have credit facilities provided by commercial banks. We have one. Now, banks act as agents of lending by means of loan, overdraft, and discounting bill of exchange, which you can see on the screen. Now, commercial banks act as an agent of lending through the following ways. Number one, loan. Through loan, money is lent out to customers at an agreed rate of interest for a specific period of time. In this case, the borrower's current account will be credited by the amount of the loan. At the same time, a loan account for the amount will be opened. The customer is required to have collateral security before he can be given loan. The customer will pay interest on the full amount he has borrowed. Number two is overdraft. Overdraft is a method of credit facility in which a customer is allowed or permitted to draw a check more than the amount of money in his account. For example, Mr. Kofo has 20,000 naira in his account and he was granted permission to withdraw 30,000 naira. The 10,000 naira difference is the overdraft. The customer pays interest on the overdraft. This type of credit facility can only be enjoyed by a current account holder. Now, we also have discounting bill of exchange. Banks can provide credit facilities to customers by discounting bill of exchange. Creditors can be paid at once and the debtor is allowed a period of credit. The bank will collect the debt when it is due for repayment. When a bank discounts a bill of exchange for a customer, it is making a payment to the creditor whose debtor has promised to pay at some future date. Thus, the bank allows the creditor to be paid at once and it will collect the debt when it is due for payment. Now, this takes us to the next page. Differences between loan and overdraft. Differences between loan and overdraft. Number one, under loan, collateral security is required, but for overdraft, collateral security may not be required. We have number two, it attracts lower rates of interest, while for overdraft it attracts higher rates of interest. For number three, we have the money is repayable at a fixed price. That is for loan. The money is repayable at a fixed price, while for overdraft there is a gradual deduction from the customer's account. Number 4, a separate account called loan account will be opened when a customer wants to collect loan from a bank, and the person will be, another account will be open for that person irrespective to the loan he or she wants to collect. But for overdraft, no separate account is open. Now, what are the factors you consider, or what are the factors the bank considers before granting a loan? Number 1, purpose of the loan. The bank will want to know the purpose or reason why a customer will need loan. Number 2, ability to pay back the loan. The bank is also interested to know the financial capability of the customer to repay back the loan at expiration. Number 3, credibility of the customer. The commercial bank will study the credibility of the customer to determine his creditworthiness. Number 4, source of income to repay the loan. When the loan is given out, the bank is interested in knowing the source of income available to the customer to repay the loan, including the interest. Number 5, financial position of customer's account. The bank will also study and analyze the financial position of the customer's account to ascertain whether the loan can be given or not. We have number 6, total amount applied for as a loan. The bank will consider the total amount of money applied for and match it with the bank's ability to give her the loan and the customer's ability to utilize the loan effectively and repay back at the agreed period of time. We have number 7, provision of collateral security. The bank will require from the customer collateral security to cover the amount of the loan taken. The essence of the collateral security is that in case the customer defaults, the security can be converted to settle the loan taken. Number 8, we have provision of referees or guarantors. Guarantors or referees may be required to provide a land or security for the loan. We have viability of the business. The bank studies the business critically to know whether the business or project is viable or not. Number 10, we have period of repayment of loan. The bank is interested in knowing how long it will take the customer to repay back the loan given. Sorry about that. Now, there are many ways in which commercial banks create money. There are many ways in which they create money. They create money by granting loans to members of the public and charging interest on them. By so doing, more money is pumped into the circulation, and this increases the purchasing power of the people. We also have, by granting overdraft to customer having current account. This process of overdraft permits customer to draw money above the amount in their current account up to a certain limit, and interest is charged on the overdraft. Now, commercial banks are required by law to keep certain percentage of their deposits with the central bank, known as cash ratio or liquidation ratio or cash reserve. This is done in order to protect customers' accounts and prevent bank crisis. Now, when the percentage of the cash reserve is low, it will enable the commercial banks to give out loans and overdrafts, thereby creating credit or money. But when the percentage of cash reserve is high, commercial banks will find it difficult to lend out money. Now, commercial bank can create credit or money by purchasing treasury bills from the government and by discounting bills of exchange. It should be noted that for commercial banks to be able to create credit, the following assumption must be made: that no single bank can create credit except all the banks or the banking system is involved, that no excess reserve exists, there must be no cash drain from the banks, that the banks invest only in loans, overdrafts and purchase of treasury bills from government, that there must be only one type of demand deposits. Now this takes us to limitations to credit creation by commercial banks. We have the cash deposit ratio. Now the higher the legal reserve requirement, that is, the higher the cash deposit ratio, the lower the ability of commercial bank to create money. Collateral security available. If collateral security is not available, banks will be scared of lending. Hence, the lower the volume of money created. Central bank restriction. Central bank's action to restrict lending, e.g., open market operation and directives, can affect the ability of commercial banks to create money. We also have amount of cash drain from the banking system. The more the amount of cash drain from the banking system, the less the money of cash available with banks. For example, when people borrow money and spend it on consumption, how will they be able to pay back? We have interest rate charged. The higher the interest rate charged by commercial bank, the lower the rate at which customer will take loans, and consequently the lower the ability to create money, and vice versa. We have willingness of other banks to lend to the public. The higher the willingness of other banks to lend to the public, the greater the ability of commercial banks to create money. We have willingness of the public to take bank loan. Commercial banks are able to create money when the public are willing to take bank loans and overdraft, that is, existence of borrowers. We have desire of the people to save. When people save, deposits are created, and it is from these deposits that banks give out loans. So the more people save, the more banks are able to create credit or money, and vice versa. We have problems of commercial banks in Nigeria. Yes, there is no establishment or organization that does not have its problem. We have urban concentration. Majority of the commercial banks are located in urban centers, thereby denying the rural area banking services. We have low savings. Majority of the populace are poor, and this leads to their inability to save in commercial banks. Number 3, corruption. There is a high level of corruption in the banking industry, as some bank managers and officials embezzle money and grant unauthorized loans to friends and relatives because of their selfish interests. We have high level of illiteracy. High level of illiteracy among the people makes banking operations and services very difficult. We have government frequent intervention. Government frequent intervention in the operation of banks sometimes make things difficult for commercial banks to operate smoothly and efficiently. We have low patronage. Commercial banks are not patronized as it should be as a result of ignorance, poverty and illiteracy. We have high interest rates. The high interest rates charged by banks makes it difficult for prospective customers to take loans from the banks. We have lack of innovative banking practices. Most commercial banks are not innovative in their banking practices, and some customers are not giving the prompt attention they desire. We have capital shortage. Most of the commercial banks have low capital base, and this makes it impossible to grant loans to prospective customers. We have non-repayment of loans. Non-repayment of loans. Some customers that took loans sometimes fail to repay the loans, and this has led to the collapse or failure of some commercial banks. That is how far we can go for today's class. Don't forget what we have learned so far about commercial banks. We have learned the definition of a bank, the origin of banking. We've learned types of bank under which we are learning about commercial banks, types of bank accounts. We also learned roles of commercial banks, problems of commercial banks, credit facility provided by commercial banks. We have limitations to credit creation by commercial banks. Now, in our today's assignment, in your own understanding, enumerate the problems of commercial banks in Nigeria, meaning explain the problems of commercial banks in Nigeria. Don't forget, in your own understanding. Number 2, discuss the limitations to the power of commercial banks to create credit. That is how far we can go for today's class. Have a good day.